So a petition demanding a complete and thorough review of the 2020 CSEC examination results have been signed by over 15,000 persons across the Caribbean up to last Thursday. Many are claiming that there are inconsistencies with the results. Join us now to have this discussion, our Public Relations Officer of the National Secondary Schools Council, Rihanna Robinson, and Dr. Wayne Wesley, Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Examination Council. Morning to you both. Morning, Rihanna. Morning, Dr. Wesley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Wesley.
Good morning to your listeners, your viewers.
Thank you, sir. I hope all is well with you both. But let me start with you, Dr. Wesley. What's different this year? And if you agree, I understand what the word inconsistency means, but if you agree with the inconsistencies, what are they?
Good morning to your listeners. And I just want to first take this opportunity to say that CSEC celebrates with the candidates who have received acceptable grades and salute those who have achieved superior performance in their respective subject. But we are also very much understanding and empathizing with those students who would have been expressing various concerns about the release of the preliminary results. Persons keep making mention of inconsistencies in results, and we have been trying to say, okay, where are those inconsistencies? Let those inconsistencies surface. But let me say, though, that there are some valid concerns from students as it relates to their grades, because if it is that we have reported that some persons have received ungraded, because to me, when I listen to the concerns being raised, there are three main areas that I think are of merit that we need to address, and we have been addressing them, that would have been raised by candidates and the parents alike. And these three areas are: one, they would have sat their examinations and have completed their SBAs and submitted those to the respective schools, and those would have been, and then an ungraded is an indication that SBA or components of that SBA was not submitted.
That's one.
And
what's the other?
And then secondly, the second point is those who would have done their SBA would have gotten their internal assessment by some means from their respective schools, and those internal assessment would give them a certain expectation as to the results that would be released. And
they didn't square. And three?
And then three, the point of absenteeism for those who said they have written the exam, but it is being reported as absent.
Okay.
There are other issues surfacing which are not accurate and not true. It's actually misleading to say that persons would have received certain profile and obtaining certain grades. And, those are the issues of concern. And I would like to explain that CSEC can only process what it has received, and where we have not received those, we have been making the effort, repeated effort, and continue even today to make those efforts to receive those outstanding SBAs. So those students who have ungraded as a result of staying, and they know that they have submitted them, to say, well, here's an opportunity for us to mark those and provide those students with the grades.
All right, Dr. Wesley, let me 1 second. Let me just ask Rihanna to jump in a little bit to ask if the concerns have been adequately captured. Rihanna, is there anything else that we need to be talking about this morning in addition to what Dr. Wesley said?
He did capture a great amount. However, there are some more things that I'd like to add to that. There are students who would have been complaining about the fact that, all right, say they're in a group for an IA. They all receive the same IA grade, but the inconsistencies lie in that where the students would have been, one would receive a 2 and the other would receive a 4. Going in with the same IA grade, they would have studied the same way.
And IA would be what, Rihanna?
So differently. Pardon?
What's IA?
Internal assessment.
Internal assessment.
Gotcha. Okay.
That is the SBA component for K.
Okay.
Right? And the same thing would have been complained at the CSEC level as well. And also, students would have been getting the same grades with, well, not the same grades, the same profiling with different grades. A student sent in some their results, and one had a ABC profile for a 1 and the same ABC profile with a 3. So these things, the inconsistencies there don't really make much sense to the students, especially the fact that they'll be going in with the same IA grade. Even some teachers have explained to us as well that their students are going in with 100% as a group IA. And one student has come up with a 1, the other student has come up with a 4, the other student has come up with a 5.
Okay.
These things don't make sense. We can't understand how you can go into an exam with 100% as an IA and come up with a 5.
Dr. Wesley, can you speak to that?
Yes. So first of all, the IA is not the only component that is used to determine the student grade. And secondly, the IA grade received by any student is not the final grade because of the moderation exercise. So those are not the final grade. There's also the multiple choice component. And I did receive some of those to which Rihanna made mention of, and we provided explanation for those who have raised those issues as to why those difference in grade can occur, because it depends not only on the IA, but also of the student's performance on the multiple choice paper.
Dr. Wesley, sorry, I want to jump in. I'm going to read something here that a youngster said. In economics, I got 2 A's and a B, and I got a grade 2. Another girl got the same profile, got 1. The same person got A and 2 B's and attained grade 1 in Caribbean Studies. That doesn't sound like it add up to me.
Right. So what I don't want to do,
Neville,
is to respond to reported profiles that achieve a particular grade, because I cannot validate same. And the reason why I'm saying that, Neville, there are information being circulated on the net which are erroneous and misleading, and is causing a lot of anxiety among students. Some persons seem to have taken a screenshot of the profile and adjust. I have actual evidence of those. In fact, somebody who did that actually left their ID numbers exposed on it, and we shall contact that individual and find out what is happening. But we don't want to speak to what persons are putting out there as accurate. All right, what we are saying is that provide us with those information where those inconsistencies of students have put it occur, and let us provide you with the analysis. It is also possible, given that the profiles are among different bands, it depends on where in that band the student falls, because you can have high A, low A, high B, low B.
Right.
And it depends on where the composition of that profile that will determine your grade. Now, the profile just gives an indication as to the ability of the student within those requisite profile expression.
Dr. Wesley, can I ask you about the letter that you received from the Minister of Education regarding the results? The results went to the students before they went to the schools, is that correct?
No. We actually made the provision for it to actually go to the ministries of education across the region. I gather that some persons had difficulty accessing the data before, but the attempt was always made. One of the things we were looking at is allowing for the release of grades at the same time with the ministry to give students the opportunity to proceed with their matriculation requirements for university and all those things. So yes, I would admit that some ministries might not have had the time to thoroughly look at the data and be in a position to respond to some of the concerns being raised.
All right. Rihanna, comfortable with what you've heard from Dr. Wesley?
Definitely not comfortable.
So
one
Rihanna,
point that I'd like, I have a few points to raise before you speak, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So teachers have been teaching for years. They have been marking IAs for years. Their students' grades have always reflected the IAs and the predicted grades that they would send the students into the exam with. So what took place this year on this large scale across the entire region, where all of these teachers and students are suddenly complaining, coincidentally complaining about the same thing with regards to their students and the grades that they're receiving. I'm not understanding what you're saying there, Mr. Wesley, because these teachers would have been teaching for years and there was no issue before, and this year suddenly there's such a huge issue, and they're stating that you're not going to look into it when it is that this is such a large scale issue. We don't appreciate that, Mr. Wesley. We don't.
Okay, I understand.
And also, you spoke to students who would have received the different profiles, the same profiles and different grades, but students were confident going into those paper one exams. And paper one gives you a better idea of your performance than the subjective paper, which was removed this year. Therefore, students had a very good idea of how they performed on that paper one when coming out of that exam.
Right.
Dr. Wesley, it sounds like we have to go to news. I'm so sorry because this discussion is very important. But I think it sounds like some audience needs to be had with all the stakeholders to kind of come to some kind of...
Yeah, but we have been working closely with the Ministry of Education to rectify these issues. I think the challenge is that...
maybe we need to involve the students, perhaps.
Exercise. Huh?
Maybe there needs to be more...
We have addressed anything that schools would have submitted to the Ministry of Education. We have been addressing them and showing them what are the differences. Students...
The students aren't satisfied.
Yep, we have to go. We have to go, sir. We have to go, sir, unfortunately.
Okay, no problem.
And as Sim said, maybe Rihanna and yourself need to continue this conversation afterwards. Thank you so much.
Rihanna, if you can put us in the room without being on here. Is it possible?
All right, sir. We have to go. Rihanna Robinson, Public Relations Officer of the National Secondary Schools Council, and Dr. Wayne Wesley, Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Examination Council.
Big up Immaculate, you know, that may I tell you. All right, still to come, Jamaica Senior Citizens Week of activities. And we hear how one non-profit organization is helping children with cancer, and Using 5 is next. Hopefully our producers can put those two in touch. We'll be right back.
They need to continue that.
The discussion, yeah.